If you're enjoying Gems with Shom, follow the show. We're just getting started. Welcome to Gems with Shom, a show about beat digging, records, and other things. Today, I'm joined by DJ YNOT, record dealer and owner of the world-renowned Lucky Records in Miami. A hell of a guy. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
We met at CreatorCon in Toronto earlier in the summer. I enjoyed talking with you so much. We hung out at your booth. We shot the shit. You're deeply knowledgeable. You're very easy to talk to. I knew we'd have a great conversation.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you in person. I think I had listened to the show prior, the episode with Rana that you guys had done like the week before. So then I was like, oh, this is the dude from the podcast.
Yeah, same guy. A lot of people have said I'm the dude from the podcast, but yeah.
It's the face with the name. Yeah, so that was awesome to meet you in real life and hang out for a minute.
Yeah, for sure. I met many great people there. I mean, it was a good thing. I mean, that place is like, it's so specific and perfect in terms of the taste and the kind of people you meet. So it was a hell of a time.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
At least.
So you're based in Miami, where you have your fantastic store.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you grow up?
So, multiple places, to be honest. I was born in Orlando, Florida. And when I was young, my parents separated and I moved to Portland, Oregon. So I spent some of my formative years in the beautiful Northwest, way back in the 90s when things were much different. And, I moved back to Florida around college. And so I've been here ever since. Been in Miami for 15 years now. And feel like I have my roots kind of in South Florida at this point after bouncing around a little bit.
So starting in Orlando, then moving to Portland. How old were you when you moved to Portland?
Oh, I was like 8 years old.
Okay. You're a record dealer. You're a DJ. You're deeply into this shit. So what are some of your early exposure to records and beat digging?
I got into records through the vehicle of DJing.
Okay.
At the time, that was, the primary source of music and kind of how we got down as like a hip hop DJ, collecting 12 inches and just using them to cut and scratch and mix. And, the whole turntablist stuff back in the late 90s, early 2000s kind of captured me. And records were really just what we used, it was the heritage of DJs at that point. There was no Serato, there was no digital. I don't think people were really using CDs. And, of course, growing up, someone my age, you're used to seeing DJs use records. That was the format, so.
Did you get the bug to start DJing when you were in Portland?
So, if I think about like the first time I saw a DJ or heard of a DJ, it was definitely when I was in Orlando. There's a guy, DJ Magic Mike. He's a bass music legend, independent hip hop guy who was really dope, like on the cuts. If you listen to some of those old albums, you could hear his rhythmic style scratching that's like, probably hard to replicate unless you have really good rhythm. So he was probably my first time I remember seeing a DJ or hearing the name DJ, and then from there, when I was growing up in Portland, I was going to like a lot of underground hip hop shows at the time. It was kind of like the age of like the indie hip hop thing, seeing groups like Living Legends and The Roots and, various underground groups that would, come through Portland on their swing to Seattle or going down to San Francisco. And, before the shows, there was always a DJ. And I would get there early. And, that was kind of my exposure to hearing dudes cut it up and all that.
So 90s hip hop scene, underground hip hop scene, like independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you seem to be very fixated on the DJ part of things.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Tell me about some of the other groups. You mentioned the Roots, Living Legends. What are some of the other groups that either you saw or were kind of associated with that time for you?
If I jog my memory, it was like the Wu Tangs of the time. Seeing all the members come through solo. Um, the Far Side, J Live. I don't even, to be honest, I don't remember. I have the ticket stub sitting in a box somewhere, but there was a lot. Del the Funky Homo Sapien, things like that. That like a teenager in the Northwest who smoked a lot of weed and would be into. And it was fun. It was good to go to the shows, and it was to see a DJ live. Before the show would open up. I always thought that was like something really really nice that they would do at all the shows. They would have a DJ kind of hosting the night.
Yeah.
In between acts before the people would get there and there would be someone playing music and it felt right.
What made you decide to start DJing, and what point did you start DJing?
I was in high school and I think it was just a general interest in DJing and seeing it over the years, wanting to give it a try. I did the typical thing that people did back then, which was, open up the back of the Source and find a starter kit, for I think it was like $300 and have it shipped to my house in Portland and, thinking like, I don't know how to set this up and kind of figuring out in a time before YouTube and, all those things existed. It was definitely a different era. And I'm happy that I grew up then when things were, the bar of entry was a little higher than maybe it is now for some people.
It was certainly higher. It made for different people DJing, different
Mhm.
requirements DJing. It was a different time on the whole. Now you got your equipment, you're rolling. It probably took you some time to set it up. You were a kid, I
Oh yeah.
imagine.
Yeah. Set up the equipment, had no clue what I was doing, like at all. Had no real direction on like where I want to take it. It was kind of something to do for fun. You set your turntables up in your living room or your bedroom and you mess around and buy some 12 inches here and there and play with the turntables like as sort of some like pastime type thing. I never really took it too serious. But eventually I started getting some gigs locally. I think the first one was like a high school dance at my school that one of the teachers probably wanted to show me that like you could actually do this as a source of income, so they hired me. And I remember they gave me a small budget to work with, and prior to the dance I went to buy records to get ready for the dance, thinking like, all right, they give me a few $100. I went downtown to the record store, grabbed at the time what I thought I would need, which was like EPMD and Dr. Octagon or some random shit that like did not rock the house, needless to say. But you know, from there I did a few local parties in Portland, maybe opened up a hip hop show or two, and then I had moved at the age of I think 19.
So you kind of got rolling. I mean, I think that's good. That first start you described, high school dance, someone kind of
Mm-hmm.
encouraging you, giving you a shot. And then you started being kind of in the scene. Whether it made you money or not is different. But you got your start at that point in Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then back to Orlando from there.
Yeah. At that point, I had gotten an internship at Disney, which sounds really silly. It was like, they do this college internship that's kind of fake, but basically it was an excuse for me to leave rainy Portland and go to Orlando for the summer where I still had some family and whatnot. And I packed up my turntables and I took them with me. I had like a dorm type situation I was staying in. At that time, I think I'd upgraded to like 1200, which was pretty cool because like back in the day, of course, you need at least one, 1200 to cut it up on or whatever. And yeah, I still was maybe kind of clueless on rocking parties and whatnot, but I was sticking with it and I bought my equipment down. And I remember I had a discount working at Disney at the Virgin Megastore, which was like a giant record store in downtown Disney in Orlando, where I could go in and get like, you know, a Fuji's album or, you know, an LP 12-inch or whatever I was into at the time. And that was the way I was buying records back then with my Disney discount.
It sounds like a big step for a young person. You're moving to Florida. You're in this program that you don't seem like you're too big on it. You're getting records. Were you DJing outwardly at that point? Was it mainly in your crib?
Oh no, yeah, I wasn't really DJing out. You know, in Portland I had a few gigs here and there, but you know, I was a new guy in Orlando. I ended up staying there and just never leaving. Coincidentally, I got fired from my internship for being, how do I say this? I was just drunk and I was talking shit to this DJ at downtown Disney at the House of Blues. No, not House of Blues, excuse me, at the it was called BET Soundstage.
All right.
So, you know, as a cast member is what they called us, we would get the a free pass once a week to go to Pleasure Island, which was like a row of clubs in downtown Disney that like was like for adults, quote unquote, you know, leave your kids and go party or whatever. I was underage. Me and my friends had a few drinks and we went to this place, BET Soundstage, and the DJ was playing like what he should have been playing at the time, you know, Little John, Yin Yang Twins, et cetera, you know, club music.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, what is this? Like, can you play some real shit? Blah, blah, blah. I may or not have been intoxicated. One thing led to another, and I ended up losing my job being a drunk teenage idiot.
Things happen, bro.
Fun story, right?
No, it is a good story. It is a good story. Also, I like your commitment to keeping it real as a teenager.
It was so silly, man. Like I think about that now and I'm like, I was one of those guys, like, you know, but you know, being a kid and not really understanding what was what, it's just kind of how it played out. And you know, it's a silly thing that happened. And I later reconnected with that DJ some years later. I ended up playing some gigs with him and being his friend and whatnot. But at the time it was you know, I drew my line in the sand, like, yo, keep it real. Where's the tribe? Where's the this? Where's the that? Why are you playing this bullshit? Yeah. You know, and being young and intoxicated, it didn't help. So,
thanks for sharing that. It's all good. We all have those stories. I have a long list, so I appreciate you sharing.
Feel free to edit that out if you need
to. It's all good.
So yeah, from there I stayed in Orlando. I didn't go back to Portland because, you know, it was sunny. I was young. And I decided I was going to just try to give it a go there. I had some family there at the time. So yeah, I stuck around. And I actually got a job at Kinko's, which doesn't exist anymore. You familiar?
I'm very familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're old enough, right? So like, I think it's called FedEx Office now, but it was a great place to work as like a, you know, wannabe DJ or whatever. Like everyone from the city would come in to make flyers and all that. So it was a great place to meet people and kind of get active in the local scene, whether it was like the hip hop scene or the club scene or meeting different people through them just coming in and making flyers. Cause you know, at that time, that's kind of like what you did, right? You made paper flyers. There was no internet. That particular location I worked at is actually like one of the ones that used to be 24 hours. And a guy that had worked there that I became friends with later, whose name is Cub, had actually thrown a rave. This is like the stuff of legend. He threw a rave inside this Kinko's in Winter Park, Florida, probably around the year 99, 2000. And it didn't last long. It got broken up. But that was the location I worked at. And that was kind of like the claim to fame of that spot.
It's like a teenage movie.
Yeah, it's really was pretty funny.
You know, that brings up for me. So you mentioned turntablism, DJing. A good friend of mine, I mean, still one of my best friends to this day, he was a turntablist and he DJ'd a lot of clubs in Toronto, right? A lot of big clubs. I mean, he did really well at an early age, like popular nightclubs, basketball players, all stuff like that. And when he was getting started, he couldn't drive or whatever reason, I was driving him to the gigs. And I studied very hard at that point. I was just into being a good student. I had an exam coming up and I was like, planning to study a lot. It was Saturday night. He calls me. He's like, hey, man, can you come with me to this thing, I got unlimited drinks. It would help. And he kind of like just convinced me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you're a teenager, we just kind of talk to each other all the time. So I'm like, all right, let's go. Except you have to come with me to I think the Office Depot is called. Like a 24-hour coffee. It was whatever it was before Staples. Not to
Cool.
get
Yeah,
into
the coffee shop.
yeah, not to get into the history of coffee shops. It was a 24-hour coffee shop. And so we go to this party, DJs, it ends at like 3 o'clock. We had a great time. And, you know, I didn't drink much. I was driving. And we load his crates and all of that. And then on the way home, I was like, yo, you got to come with me to this coffee place. And it's like 3 a.m. He's like, what? Even after all of that? I was like, yeah, man, I told you. Instead of studying, I got to copy this thing. So he's comes with me. He's like, fine. He's kind of falling asleep, and I'm like copying a long ass binder.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who worked at the copy place, he was kind of difficult. Like he was like giving me shit.
Yeah.
And
The
he was
3
like
a.m.
kind of,
copy guy is usually the friendliest.
yeah. 3 a.m.
Yeah.
copy guy. And he was an adult, like a 40-year-old man.
Yeah,
And I'm
he's
like,
working there. He's probably not happy.
that's right. And you could overhear them. My friend is now sleeping. I'm
Mhm.
copying shit. And you could overhear them like organizing their order for like coffee and donuts.
Nice.
This guy's order was like half an hour long. Let me get a curler. Let me get a donut. And it goes on for like half an hour. And at the end of it, he's like, yeah, let me get a Diet Coke. And we're like, what's the point? And my friend wakes up just hearing the order. He's like, what the fuck is this shit? And then the copy guy just started giving us a bad look. Like, why are you guys clowning my
Yeah, that's my
order?
order. Yeah.
So we were being dicks, but every once in a while we started just like reenacting this crazy long order ending with a Diet Coke. Look, I don't know why that's funny, but
Yo, the Diet Coke at the end is always the killer. It's like
yeah,
you're gonna order all this and then you're gonna try to save a couple calories with the diet.
yeah, it was like 6 donuts.
You're not diabetic, my man. Like,
Yeah. So that's my memory of late night copying. But whatever. Look, the tangents we take. All right. So you're in Orlando. You're at the copy place. What's the vibe next? I mean, you know, this story is like full of glamour so far.
I mean, yeah, this is a pretty boring start to this podcast.
No, it's an excellent start. It's an excellent start.
So like I'm working at this copy shop, right? And it's like it's crazy. I'm making copies and putting the toner in the machine. No, but like it ends up being a good meeting point for me to meet like a lot of the local scene at the time, right? And I ended up interacting with a lot of like, you know, local MCs, if you will, and other DJs, and they're coming in to promote their parties, and I'm, you know, learning who's who and what's what locally there in Orlando. It was right by a school called Full Sail, which is a pretty big, well-known like audio engineering school, which a lot of people who are like, you know, looking to be like studio engineers and whatnot were going to. So like most of the staff was like Full Sail graduates there. And it was an interesting place to be because, you know, despite it being like in Central Florida, which is like not the funnest place, you would run into a lot of transplants that were there for Full Sail, you know, that were like going there trying to do stuff, whether it was music related or not. And so it was a nice way to kind of interact with the local scene there at the time.
All right. It seems like wherever you go, you're like getting in the scene somehow, right? I mean, both in Portland as a, let's say, teenager and a young person back in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
What was the next move for you?
From there, I just started meeting people as you do, right? And when you're a young DJ, at least back then, and you're eager to get on, you'll do anything. You know, somebody hits you up, hey, there's a house party. We're doing this. There was like an AIDS awareness benefit on the UCF campus. I did all sorts of events that I could just, you know, bring my turntables to and do my thing, you know, and I got to like meet a bunch of interesting people, like I was saying, and that kind of led to me getting more involved, you know, in like the hip hop scene in Orlando during those years, going to shows, you know, opening up shows, and Yeah, it was a fun time to be
What
in.
was the hip hop scene like in Orlando?
I would say like I'm learning like in these. I'm not sure if it's a time thing because I'm older now and I'm not as involved, but both in Portland and in Orlando, it seemed to be much more tight knit, and there seemed to be a lot more activity when it comes to that type of music. There was definitely a bunch of really good rappers and DJs that like you would just be shocked. Like I remember going to my first battle and thinking like, all right, I've been practicing, I'm ready to do this. It was like the day before Thanksgiving. Some local what was it, a store that sells equipment, I forget the name of it. Anyways, whatever.
Power
Was
Center?
doing a DJ battle, right?
Yeah.
Sponsored battle, and I went thinking like, all right, I got this shit. Like, I've been practicing, and just being blown away by this dude whose name is SPS. Was like nasty, and I was like, all right, maybe this turntable thing isn't like what I thought it was, right? Like, and back then, now I'm thinking about it, it's like jogging all these memories. Guitar Center used to do a battle, and it was called the Spin-Off. So I was doing that every year, meeting up with other DJs and kind of learning the ropes. I was never like great at battling, but it was fun, and I got to meet like a lot of other DJs through that scene.
What was your relationship with the turntablist scene at that time?
I mean, it was everything. Yeah, like I think I saw that movie Scratch in theaters like 3 times when it came out. Like I thought it was amazing. Things guys were doing with turntables, and technology was less, so people had to get a little more creative with what they had. Um, and definitely was like focused on scratching and beat juggling and trying to figure all that out. Um, it's not something you can just be half-assed and half-step with. Like the people that are proficient in that have put in the hours like beyond, and I think it's a skill set that is maybe not as well respected or looked up as it was back then. Like if you were the DMC champ in 2001, you were like the man. This year I don't know if who won. I don't think it's as relevant in terms of like the general public, if you will. But anyways, to answer your question, I thought it was like the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, it was the coolest shit ever. I
Mm,
could confirm that.
yeah.
And at that time, it was a big part of my life. Not that I DJ'd.
Mm,
Good friends of mine did really well in that and won many battles both in Toronto, in Canada, and international, DMC, ITF,
mm,
all of that.
mm,
And as a crew, they were just very competitive. The way they practiced, and they were very young people. I mean, from the age of maybe 14 to 18 was a lot when a lot of it happened. And the way they competed against other crews who are we're all friends, but like they're like, I want to beat them. Like that this was their life. It was like the Olympics. Like these guys locked themselves in a room, they critiqued each other, they practiced hard. I mean, many, many hours per day. And almost like it was pretty crazy. They're like, why are you wasting time socializing or like going out?
yeah.
We should be practicing like
It's a little
that.
obsessive, right? Like I
Massively
think
obsessive.
I think people were like, people that took it really seriously were definitely like obsessed with it to the point where like things like meeting women and like eating food and like, you know, people regular people things people regular excuse me things that regular people are interested in kind of fell to the wayside in lieu of like being the dopest scratcher or whatever. It's like it's
Yeah.
kind of crazy to think about.
That was their life, right? And it's, looking back, it's pretty weird for like a kid. I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of their success was from really early, like 14, 15, 16, 17, right? So they're essentially children,
Hmm.
but they were very good. They competed, they looked up to the stars like the Invisible Scratch Pickles, Executioners. They became friendly with them. And I mean, those guys who did that, they're still successful to this day in the music business. Not that they do anything to do with turntablism. They're producers, songwriters, but I think they just learned how to do it, and they learned a lot about music.
Mm.
And Yeah, I mean that scene, especially in Toronto, Canada, where I grew up, there's a lot of people from that time who are pretty successful today. Yeah.
Whether it's in the realm of turntablism, or DJing, or songwriting, but something else entirely. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes DJing, but they may be artists or they may be producers. Um, yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
they just transitioned that talent to like the modern times. They didn't stay doing the exact same shit as before. They kind of
Mhm.
growing.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something in life that can apply to kind of everything. But like, your mission on Earth is not necessarily just to be like the best DJ. It might be, sharing music or what have you. And you can transition to do different things, and not necessarily stick within the realm of being a battle DJ or whatever.
That's a hell of a point. That's a hell of a point. It really applies as you go through life, right? And
Mhm.
that's not only music, it's just like skills and whatever you learn, relationships to translate into different phases. I mean, that's the whole fucking game of life. Not only success, but are you happy doing stuff? So I think
Right.
it's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So turntablism scene, Orlando. I know you now live in Florida. So what
Right.
was the next move after that?
So at that point, um, I'm young. I'm kind of like excited about DJing, and trying to figure out like how I can throw my hat into the ring. I would go to places and think of like, man, I would love to DJ here one day. In particular, there was a spot called Fat and Jazzy that was every Tuesday at the spot called The Social. This guy Greg, DJ BMF, did it for like, I want to say 20 years, maybe longer. Maybe he's still doing it. I'm not even sure. But you know, I was going out and figuring out, who was who and what was what. And at some point I started making mixtapes. Um and I was becoming more interested in different styles of music rather than just scratching and hip hop and whatnot. It's like the can of worms that we all open when we get into hip hop, right? It's like, all right, where are these samples coming from? It's everything, as you know, and as you've discussed in this podcast before. It's like that really is just the trajectory of a lot of people when it comes to records. But to answer your question, I was doing anything and everything I could. There was a college club at the University of Central Florida. They had like a hip hop club that some of the students had got together and done. And I was able to, you know, get involved with those guys. And they would have like an annual b-boy battle, and they would do like a couple shows a year and different events on campus. And I was able to kind of link with them. So that was a fun entry level, way to get kind of involved. From there, like this guy Sagar booked me to play all the home games for UCF. I got like a nice gig to like do the tailgating party thing, and just different gigs around town and whatnot.
That sounds good. I mean, like I said, everywhere, every phase, you seem like you're getting gigs, you're getting into scenes. You're very good with people, Tony. So I think that
Yeah.
helps.
And I'll say this: when it comes to DJing, I think being a good person and being well liked and being easy to get along with will probably take you a lot further than like being the best DJ, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, that's just my philosophy, anyways. Because you could be like the nicest on the cut, but if you're not like the nicest in person, it's like who wants to work with this dude, right? Like,
Yeah.
being easygoing and personable will get you a long way.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I think that applies to DJing, that applies to life.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much everything.
yeah. Also, it's a good personal ethic. Like, be a nice guy, be a nice
Yeah,
person. I think it's a good way to live.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're DJing tailgating parties, you're DJing various parties around there. You're in the scene.
Mhm.
How long did you stay in Orlando at that point? It seemed like it was a long run there, many, many years.
Oh yeah, I was there for like a decade.
Okay.
I was there for a long time. And it was great. I had kind of like got involved in some different things. I had a couple of residencies There was a bar called Cleo's Lounge, which is just like a dive bar downtown. I started doing every Wednesday. I did that for like, I don't remember how many years. It's all kind of a blur, but it was a great gig. You know, they paid cash and it was fun. And I did, there was a club called Firestone, which is kind of like a legendary spot down there in that city. And around like the hipster era, like 2007-ish, they started a party called Saturday Thursday.
Okay.
And so, you know, at that party, they were booking like major acts both nationally and internationally. So like they had everyone come through like Mastercraft, Justice, anyone that was kind of relevant in that scene at the time. And I was like the side room guy. Like there was like a hip hop room.
Eh,
And that was a great party to be involved with because it was always packed. A couple thousand kids every week on Thursday. I think it only lasted a couple years, but it was very impactful. And I remember I'd set it up where I would like invite some b-boys out to dance in the beginning of the night. So it would fill the room up and it would be like entertaining for people to pop in and see what was going on. So from like, you know, 10 to 12, there'd be these guys in there breaking and it would be like, all right, you know, people would kind of wander in and see what was going on. And then around 12, it would transition into more like club friendly type fodder. And that night was a lot of fun. Got a lot of good memories from that place in those years.
Cool. I mean, sounds like that sounds very successful on multiple levels. And also
Mhm.
maybe for you personally, having the b-boy element maybe made you feel comfortable. You're seeing what you like.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. I don't think I was like really ready to go all in on being like a club DJ at the time. You know, my personal code of ethics that I grew up with was like, yo, you know, so like I wasn't quite ready to just like flip the switch and be that guy. But I do remember having a conversation with another DJ once and him kind of telling me like, look, at some point you got to choose whether you're going to just be like really good at scratching and be a turntablist or you're going to be like a party rocking like club DJ. And, you know, at the time I was like, really? Like, wow, you can do both, right? And some people did, but, you know, I think at a certain point you realize what works with women and gets people dancing and, you know, what is more of like an artistic, you know, thing that is, you know, cool for the hip hop in you, but not necessarily for mass appeal, you know?
Yeah, I know a lot. I think
Everyone wants to know at this point, right? That's like, you know?
I think I understand anyone's decision around it. You know,
Mhm.
I think those ethics you mentioned, you described it. It probably felt like a big deal to you at the time.
Yeah.
It's not like in your gravestone, it's not going to be like he kept it real.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nobody's thinking about that anymore. Yeah.
yeah,
And I remember getting like, you know, the Pussycat Dolls 12-inch and like Fergie London Bridges and like things like that. And being like, damn, man, do I got to play this shit? And you know what? And some parties I would.
yeah,
And it was fun and, you know, whatever.
yeah. I mean, I get both points of views. For
Mm,
some people, they just won't do it, and they're willing to give up the opportunities and money. I fully understand and respect that. Others, you could just play stuff and still have your taste. It's not a big deal. And also just think about it like this. People do all kinds of shit for work,
mhm.
like work at a bank, work at a tech sector, work as a
Yeah.
mechanic, whatever. It doesn't mean they have a personal
Yeah.
identification, right? So, I mean, I get both ways. I understand all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, not to get hung up on that, but like to get paid to like DJ, whether or not it's music you really love or not, is kind of a special thing, right? Because you're getting like essentially what a doctor might get or a lawyer or someone that's like a high paying professional to, you know, play some records for a few hours. You know, the hourly rate's about the same or can be, right? So it's a real honor. And, you know, if you don't take yourself too seriously, you could have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the DJs who get to maintain their taste over decades,
Hmm.
they exist. I have them on the show. It's great, but it's just not everyone's life. And so I
Hmm.
respect both ways, you know, and
Yeah.
it's rare. It's just very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And salute to them, you know, for sticking to the guns. You know, that's like not everyone's capable of you know, of sticking to the script like that.
Most people just don't. I
Yeah.
think I just don't think they last that long. Not everyone's DJ career is 20, 30 years. Most
Mhm.
people don't. And you could be successful and do it for 5, 10 years and great. I mean, not everything has to be for life.
No, you're a DJ for life. Once you're a DJ, you're oh no, it's like it's one of those things where I do feel like for me anyways, I was committed to the bit,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
better or worse, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. What was your next move?
Mhm.
I know you're now in Miami. What prompted that change?
So, the Miami move kind of came about rather abruptly. I had a friend who had met at that party I was speaking to you about earlier, named Sven, who at some point had moved to Miami. Um, and he called me up out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I started dating this woman. She's the bar manager at the spot. It's a lot of fun. We have kind of an in there. We should do something. What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Let's book DJ Premier. You got a budget? Like, let's make it happen."
You really went straight to the top there.
I'm like, I'm I'm just thinking let's make it happen. So, we connected the dots, we sent the emails, we got the deposits in, blah blah blah. And he set it all up. And so, I drove down to open for premiere at the spot called Bardo, which is kind of a legendary spot here in Miami. And I was a total fish out of water, man. I'm just like some kid from Orlando. I know nobody. Um, I remember like organizing my Serato, like on the drive down, which is like a 4-hour car ride. Anyways, the night was a good success. It was a lot of fun. Um, I did well, and I started getting called back to do hip hop events at that spot.
Okay.
Through my connection with this guy.
All
And
right.
one thing led to another and ended up being like a resident there. At the time I was like banging down the highway once a week in my old Honda Civic, just trying to make it happen. And yeah, it was great, so I got a residency there. And, about the same time, I had like a day job for like a year. I was kind of like I would DJ for a couple of years, and then I would get like a job to supplement my income or whatever. And I gotten let go. And the same day I got let go, my buddy called me and he was like, "Yo, why don't you just like move down here? We'll get you set up, blah blah blah." So from there, I moved down south, and that was just like a whole nother thing.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
For our audience, you've led a lot of your life in Florida, part in Orlando, part in Miami. Explain to people, let's say they live in another part of the world, what is the difference from a music scene, a life standard scene between those two places? Because they're quite different, even though they're both in Florida.
Hmm. I'd say they're worlds apart, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and it's geologically not that far, but there's a big difference between Miami, which is kind of like its own bubble, versus Orlando, which is very unique in its own right. The the market is much smaller, um, because it's just a smaller city. There is a lot of people that live there, and there is their own heritage and musical legacy that is specifically involves Orlando. Like you got Magic Mike, you got guys like Diplo that came through there, and it's its own thing. But Miami is, and South Florida in general, is a lot different in terms of like just the background of the people. Obviously every region has its own thing. In Miami you've got bass music. In Miami you've got a lot of Latin people, so there's the island influence. You've got a lot of Jamaican people. It's a little more diverse in that sense. Whereas, Orlando, you had a good amount of Puerto Ricans, but Miami is like all of South America, all of Central America, Colombians, Venezuelans, and musically, because of that diversity, it's a much more diverse place. And it's hard to describe, but you kind of got to be on your toes, especially as a DJ here. Much more complicated. There's much more of a sharp learning curve, and you need to like be adaptable to different scenarios and different situations. Whereas in Orlando, there definitely was some diversity, but maybe not as much.
Okay. Is it more expensive?
Definitely. Yeah, much more expensive. Yeah, I mean, it's just higher cost of living in the city. It's probably gone up significantly since I've been here.
Yeah.
And with that being said, at the time, I think the DJ rates were a lot better in this market than they were back there. So like, it was easier to pay your bills on a few gigs a week here than it might have been, getting a couple $100 from a dive bar at the end of the night. You
Yeah.
know.
No, thanks for sharing that. Some of those questions were rhetorical.
Mm,
Like I said, you never know who's listening and where they're based.
mm,
I Miami is amazing. I mean, I love it there.
mm,
It feels like you're in a different country completely than the rest of the US. And there's that island kind of this atmosphere. You could smell the sea in the air.
mm.
I have so much fun when I go there. I almost feel like this place is too good to be true. Something in my mind, I always tell people this is going to sound crazy,
Mm.
that I like it so much, but if I move there, I feel like I'd be like dead in a month. Like everything goes my way there. Everyone says yes to everything I say, and
Yeah.
everyone just agrees with me, and everything just is like perfect there. And somehow, I don't know, I'm not used to this. Growing up in Toronto, New York, maybe I'm just a little bit skeptical of things. I feel like I'd end up like rolled up in plastic or something
Why
like
would you be dead? What do you think would lead to an early demise?
that. It's not like drugs or anything like that. I just feel like, yeah, I have some drinks there, and I don't know. It just
So
all seems to just be too good to be true.
yeah, and I guess in regards to that, like talking about the differences between the two cities, which um, the the way things work here is a lot differently. There's places that are open 24 hours,
Yeah.
right? There's places that are open till 5 a.m. Orlando was like a family city because they have Disney World there,
Yeah.
so like things were shut down at like 2 o'clock. All bars and clubs are done at 2. I think one of the old mayor's daughters had overdosed on ecstasy back in the rave days, like in the mid 90s. So they changed the rules and everything was pretty strict, right? Because they have Disney there and they don't want people like getting too crazy. Whereas in Miami, it's kind of the Wild West, in terms of like, some places will shut down at 3, but then there's a place that shuts down at 5. And then from there, you can go to this strip of clubs that are open till 9 a.m.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I'm going to like full on restaurants. It's like 7 a.m. It's full
Yeah.
of people. Um, it was amazing. Everything was good. The food was good. I had so much fun. Went for Art Basel, and the place was on fire. Like the whole
Mhm.
town. I can't express how much fun I had.
Yeah. I think that week in particular is a little intense. There's a lot of people from out of town, and it's a lot of fun. And I think what happens to a lot of people is they come down for that week, and then don't realize the rest of the year is much much different. Things do slow down, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
It's a lot, you're dealing with heat and humidity. You're dealing with, people that go to Europe if you can afford it, right? Like a lot of the people just jet for the summer and be gone for a couple months. Restaurants are slower, clubs are slower. Just in general, things slow down a bit. But I will say this, it's an amazing place. And after living here for so many years, I can't see myself living anywhere else.
Good. I'm glad you made it more than a month. It seems like it's going well for you. Maybe I'll make it back and kind of give the place a proper chance. Maybe Art Basel was a distinct time to go.
Yeah, and I totally can empathize with what you're saying because you tend to while out a bit,
Yeah.
and if you're not on top of it, it can easily get away from you, and whether that's eating too many croquetas or partaking in one too many parties and whatnot. It's a city that it's easy to get lost in the sauce here if you're not careful.
Yeah, you're right. Nothing happened to me. Everything
Mm,
went well, but I just felt like this place is so perfect. And whatever reason, everyone just listened to everything I said, which is not the case in New York. I'll tell you that. And then, secondly, I remember just like in the day,
mhm,
I went with a friend. He left one day early. So I was like solo for a day. And I go to just walk on South Beach, and I just walk around. I'm like, I'm going to have a beer, just kind of take in the vibe. And it was maybe 2, 3 o'clock. And this outdoor bar was so lit. It was insane. It was more than like, just like, yo, you could not take a kid in here.
mhm.
And I just couldn't believe how wild it was. It's fucking 2 p.m.
I'll say this city is definitely there's always something going on. And with that being said, there's also kind of something for everyone. So, there's plenty of nightlife and there's plenty of popping parties and there's always something to do. But if you don't want to do that kind of stuff, if you want to wake up at 6 a.m., you can go do yoga on the beach. There's like this whole realm of possibilities that exists here. And when you live here for some years, you kind of figure out, that there's a wider range than maybe initially as it appeared as an outsider.
Yeah, I'm more of a, you know, like a vegan eating yoga on the beach kind of guy now than I
Hmm.
was back then. So, well, whatever. It was a time in life. Bottom line, I really like Miami. So when you moved to Miami, what was the vibe? Did you start getting these gigs? I mean, it seemed like really quickly hip hop shows, which seems perfect for you. What made you be able to decide to move full on to Miami?
It was just some opportunities that presented themselves as a working DJ. So the goal, right, when you're a DJ is just like pay your bills with DJing, right? And um maybe I was chasing like the dreams of like being a DJ and making that happen at the time. And I came down here and I was able to get a lot of gigs because there's just so much going on. There's a ton of really great DJs as well that you kind of hone your chops with. And you get to know over the years and you figure out like, who's who and what's what. But at the time, there's residency here, residency there. You can go DJ at the pool party in the afternoon. There's a restaurant that needs a DJ for 3 hours on, Tuesday night. And because the city has got so much going on, during that era as a working DJ, it was easy to kind of get your feet wet and get involved and, make it like a solid living as a working DJ.
I mean, that's pretty great. It sounds like you're on a roll at that point, right? You're warming up to the city, you're getting gigs.
Hmm.
Such an active place. There's so much nightlife and demand. It seems
Hmm.
like you're on a bit of a high at that point.
Oh, I can't front. It was a ton of fun, right?
Yeah.
Like you're working 3, 4 nights a week, you're sleeping till noon. And for me, especially as someone who's coming from this keep it real hip hop background, to kind of like cross over and figure out a way to make it work. I'm not someone who was like in these big room clubs, but there was, like I said, these smaller venues, these hip hop shows, these different things that present themselves. There's always like corporate events that would happen here, especially during busier times of the year. And you can make a good run at it if you want, as a DJ.
That seems like a pretty great time in life. I mean, you're in Miami,
Mm.
palm trees, getting gigs, kind of active. I mean, that's a pretty good place to be.
Yeah, and I will say this as a caveat, just like about the city in general, like people that are like producers and things like that, this is a very hard place to stay focused. I feel like if you're living in Minnesota, you can be in front of your NPC all day, pounding, making beats and whatnot. But if you're here and it's sunny and it's beautiful and you're out running around, it's way easier to get distracted in regards to that. Um,
Yeah.
Anyways, just an aside.
I think that's a really good aside. People who listen to the show probably like the legendary producer Scott Storch, one of my personal favorites.
Hmm.
And yeah, he tells a story about his life there, how it kind of went a bit to the left.
Yeah, went pretty south for that dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it went pretty well. I mean, he's recovered, life is good, but his life is like a movie. It's more crazy than any movie. And yeah, there's a lot of options.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how candid he is. Also, it's interesting. It's like he's almost like a Liberace type figure, like flossing, money, famous
He's
models and
special, man.
actors.
That video where he's getting his haircut, smoking a cigarette, and playing the keys at the same time.
It's the best. And the thing is, everything he plays sounds ill. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, dude is a legendary, like, keys player, but like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of music people who are good and they're talented. Doesn't mean they're gonna have that kind of insane high level success. And then also I find it just humorous the way he tells these stories, because like he's like kind of like a jazz guy, like he's a soulful
Mm.
keyboard player who just got involved with this very, very wild life. And I love how he tells these stories.
I mean, I remember a time when like every record that was in the club was something he produced. It's like kind of remarkable the run he had, you know?
Magic touch. He's got the magic touch. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So are we talking in all of this pre-pandemic?
Oh yeah. This is all
Okay.
pre-pandemic. And that was a wild time. Like I said, there was all kinds of hip hop shows that I got to open for. A long list of like national artists, Mobb Deep, Raekwon, Danny Brown, Action Bronson, and getting on the bill with some of these well-known artists was like fun and inspiring. Um and it was just a really good time in general.
You
At some
managed to
point,
keep it. You managed to keep it real somehow. I mean,
yeah,
you're with all the legends.
yeah, I was able to have a nice run at it, and it was pre-pandemic. I actually kind of like around the time of the pandemic is when I kind of pumped the brakes on all that. Um, Obviously the world pumped the brakes,
Yeah.
and there wasn't really anything going on, which was a scary time to be like a working DJ. But yeah. So that kind of brings me to like the next chapter, right? Which is being a record shop owner, which I haphazardly, excuse me, fell into. Was never like my life's plan or anything. Um, but the same crazy friend who got me to move to Miami, um, at the time had become a successful business owner and had some ventures going on. One of which was a Asian food hall, which they wanted to open here in Miami. And he had asked me, "Hey man, do you think you'd want to like run a record store in the front of it?" And it didn't really make much sense in my head, like from the way he explained it. But yeah, I was like, I'm down to give this a go. And that was before the pandemic, 2017. And so, at that point, I was still DJing full time. We ended up opening the shop. I had a partner who runs a label called Nature Sounds. A good friend of mine named Devin Horvitz, who we partnered up on it. At the time, he had a warehouse here in North Miami full of records that we could use as inventory, and he also had a little business savviness from running the label for so many years, and was really a good dude to kind of learn from. Um, but we opened the shop in 2017. The two of us kind of went into business together, and then it was kind of a thing on the side I would do. Like I didn't take it that serious, to be honest with you. And then the pandemic happened, and it was like, oh boy, what am I going to do now, right? And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, where it's like you got to put these skills and apply them to a uh, different thing. So, I ended up taking over the shop. DJing took a back seat, just A, because it had to, and B, because I was getting a little older and my interests were changing. And it kind of renewed my interest in DJing and, excuse me, not DJing, and record collecting, pardon me. Which I didn't mention earlier, but in Orlando, I have to mention this because it kind of revolves around your last podcast with Rashida. She had mentioned a store called More Dusty Than Digital that she worked at in Atlanta. So when I was living in Orlando, there was a guy that moved down to go to Full Sail. He goes by the name of Rob Wonder, and he was a partner in that shop, More Dusty Than Digital. This is probably around 2005. We met at one of those Guitar Center battles back in the day. So he had moved down from Atlanta to go to school at Full Sail, and he had rented like a little 2-bedroom apartment, and I would go hang out with him, and he had boxes and boxes full of records, which was like, I guess, some of the inventory left over from that store when they closed it. At the time, I was like a young, excited about DJing kid, and he'd be like putting me on to stuff that was like pretty common, but also like cool to hear about. Like, yo, check out this Grover Washington record, check out this Ramsey Lewis, cheap $5 joints that like everyone needs to know about. And that kind of was like what got me really excited about digging and looking for records, and basically started that whole thing of like being a record addict, if you will.
Oh, I like that story. It seems like this store, more dusty than digital, has something around it, right? It's caused a few ripples, different people going in different directions. It sounds like a hell of a place.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it up because that was like a very important part of like my formative years as like a, I think I was like 19, 20 meeting that dude. And, you know, he put me on to records that I would never think to check out, and then we would go to like the record shows and take our little Vestex portable turntables and, drop a needle on this Jimmy McGriff and like, oh, there's a little loop here and blah, blah, blah. And like, that whole thing got kind of started. And throughout all those years of DJing, I was buying records on the side just for listening pleasure at home, collecting, every once in a while I'd move and I'd thin out my collection a little bit. I was never like a record dealer and I never even thought about selling records in that regard. But fast forward to the pandemic, I have the shop. It's like a good opportunity to kind of like pump the brakes on the DJing till 3 in the morning, 4 nights a week. And so that kind of took a precedence and like, kind of got like the fire lit back under me as far as like going out and finding records is concerned. And it's been like a whirlwind the past 5 years. Bought a lot of collections, done a lot of digging, had a lot of weird experiences, had a lot of good experiences, found some cool records, met some cool people. Yeah, it's definitely something I love to do, and it's like a lot of fun. Some days are better than others, It's a lot of work for sure. More work than I think I understood. And, I think people think of like having a shop that it's just like, oh, you just sit around and people bring you records, and that's not the case, especially in 2025, or 2026, excuse me. You got to go out and get it. And you got to find these records wherever you can, so I think the finding the used records is really the bulk of the work when it comes to running a shop, if you're selling used records, of course. But
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of points I want to touch on there. So you shifted from being a DJ, playing out, nightclubs, restaurants, other things.
Mhm.
You had this seemingly fortuitous opportunity to
Mhm.
open a record shop. Firstly, I don't think it's fortuitous. It's because people like talking to you. You generated this opportunity. I don't know if you could have planned it, but I want to give you credit for that. You made this happen. If you were a dick, it certainly wouldn't have happened. So that I wanted to point out. And then the pandemic happened and you started taking it more seriously. Were you, I don't know the vibe in Florida. I'm pretty sure everything was open. It's Florida.
Mhm.
Were you selling only from the store or were you mailing? Like, what were you doing?
During the pandemic, we had tried to pivot to like a model where we were posting records on our Instagram and, listing stuff on Discogs. And some of that existed for sure, just to try to like meet, make ends meet. But it was like a really difficult time for everyone. It's not something that's unique to me, but like, the day you get a call that like all your gigs are canceled, and you have no idea where your next check is coming from as a DJ. And then, your store is going to be closed for, we were closed for at least 3 months. Um, and you can't really go out and meet people to get records because no one's meeting. So you're kind of just isolated, going through boxes of what you have, trying to just keep the lights on with what you got.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the state that the record store is at now, I mean, it's very popular online. I always hear so many good things about it. It's popping off, and Miami's kind of getting rejuvenated as a place for this culture around beat digging. So
Mhm.
I think it's going great for you.
Yeah, I would say it was like definitely like as far as timing is concerned, like there was a renewed interest in records during the pandemic. People were bored, maybe, I don't know. People
Yeah.
wanted to reconnect with, an old passion. And at least for me and for, a lot of other people, they were getting into it for the first time. So, it was a perfect storm in terms of that. And, taking it a little more seriously and spending a little more time sourcing records and whatnot. It's been able to, to go well.
Good. I'm glad to see it. It seems like you're on a roll right now. Let's talk about the part sourcing records. When we were in Toronto at Crater Recon, you had some grails, rare records, things you don't see every day.
Hmm.
And we got to talking a little bit about how you found these items. Now, I found that fascinating because it's just less and less so the case that people find things in the wild that are rare. It's just less common than it was maybe 20 years ago. As a record dealer, guy with a store, can you explain for our audience how you procure these records?
I don't want to give away too much.
All right. Fair enough. Fair
No, I'm
enough.
just kidding. It's just a lot of work, to be honest, is what it comes down to. It's not easy because, first and foremost, record collections aren't as commonplace as they were 20, 30 years ago. You know, people who once collected records and switched to CDs or cassettes have long gotten rid of them, right? So there's just fewer collections out there to find. Um, and there's probably more people than ever looking for records, right? Because we're all junkies and we all want to like scratch that itch. So you kind of got to just be on top of your game, and it's a daily thing of like following up with leads. There was a time in my life when I was going to a flea market twice a week, and a lot of times, in fact, most times you wouldn't find anything. But then the one time you would, it would be like, enough to keep you going, right? So it's just a constant thing of staying on top of it, following over the people. Uh it's part luck as much as it is hard work, right? Like you never know. Someone says they got records, 9 times out of 10, it's junk. Here in Florida, it could be moldy junk. It could be like good records that are beat. It's just the only way you're gonna win is if you play. So you kind of have to just like keep after it. And really, like as much as I love the music, which I do, it's finding in itself is a part of the thing, right? It's part of the addiction that like keeps you going after it. Um, it's like the biggest hit of dopamine ever when you're just like out and you find some crazy record that maybe you didn't even know it existed, but you came across it. So
No, I think that thrill as a record dealer, you're doing it at a professional level.
mhm.
Every person who looks for records has that little feeling as well. And I think it's cool what you shared about how you get it. I mean, it doesn't sound all glamorous. Put it like that.
No, it's definitely not glamorous. And really, like at this point, as someone who like runs a shop, I'll be excited to find like clean copies of The Police and Wham and like Tears for Fears and things like that. As a head or as a DJ, I would never be like super interested in. As a music lover in general, of course, music's great, but they're just things that are common that aren't so common anymore. That you can put in the bin at the shop and it's gonna fly, right? Anytime you find Sade, it's like gone. And it's stuff that I remember as a kid I'd seen a dollar bin all the time, and now it's Minnie Riperton and things like that are not as commonplace as it used to be.
Yeah, it is interesting. And now that I think about it, someone new getting into records, they think Sade is cool. Sade is very popular. I mean,
Mhm.
always liked her. I've always had her records, got them for cheap, $5, $10, whatever. I mean, I could see someone paying $30 and it's worth it for them. $40. I mean, I have no idea how much it costs, right? But
Mhm.
they look at it not as something in their like crates. They look at the record, they put it up on the wall, they enjoy the music, the vibe. I mean, it's worth it for most people.
I think so, and I think like being a shop owner, what you're paying for is not necessarily, and you're paying for the record, like, but you're paying for the ability to walk in the doors, come in, it's in a nice sleeve, it's graded, it's ready to go, versus me running around like a madman all over the place, digging in crusty, disgusting places that, you don't want to see.
Yeah, yeah. They're having a latte. They're looking through your records. They feel nice, nice surprise. Okay, let's get these few records, and they're on their way. I mean, that's a first of all, a very nice curated experience, and they like music too. It doesn't mean they have to lead the life that you led and I led, right?
Yeah, I would hope nobody leaves this. But I will say this, like, speaking of lattes, like a latte is like what, $7, right?
Yeah,
You can go into a dollar bin and find a beautiful full-length album for $1.
yeah,
That'll like, it's just crazy to me. Like, not that it's like, obviously as a record store owner, you attach value to different albums and whatnot. And it's a really weird thing to think about because it's a piece of plastic, right, with a cardboard jacket, but one could be $100 and one could be completely worthless.
Yeah.
And it's really some sort of weird magic that like it's hard to put into words. But you know, a cup of coffee can be $7, or you could find, you know, an amazing full length album for $1. It's wild.
Yeah, I like how you put it like that. And where you are in Miami at this time, we just started 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Records and beat taking are more popular than ever. It's
Mm-hmm.
popping off. There's a whole generation of people who like it. They appreciate it. They like the aesthetic of it, the tactile nature, the ritual. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's all good. It doesn't mean it has anything to do with what I did when I was a teenager, or what you did, or what
Yeah.
many, let's say, OG beat diggers did. I mean, I don't even know if we're OGs. There's people older than us.
Yeah.
The point is, it doesn't have to be. At least they like it and it's popular. That's good.
I mean, I live by the rule that like every record in my shop is good.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, so like I'm not gonna lie to someone if I don't really like something, but you know, when you're operating a store, you're servicing like a wide market. So it's like parallels with DJing in a sense, right? Like what I like and what I'm into isn't necessarily gonna have enough appeal to like keep the lights on at the shop, right? So like you kind of have to cater to that demographic, and whether that's carrying, you know, the Lana Del Rey, whatever reissue, or Dark Side of the Moon, or whatever, it's all encompassing, you know, and like you have to kind of open your horizons musically to see what's out there and see what people are into, you know, like something like Rush. I'm not like a huge Rush fan, but I know like people want Rush records. You know what I'm saying? It's like it goes with the whole thing, right? So yeah, you know, you have to like, keep an open mind both with music and with people in general. And you know, people come in and they're like, "Yo, this record skipped to my turntable," and then you have to like kind of consult with them and be like, "All right, what kind of turntable do you have, and can we try to play it in the store?" And you know, because you're dealing with people that are new to collecting records and playing records, you know, and it's tricky, you know. But it's fun and it's rewarding, and you know, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about like having this purpose and kind of transferring it to something else, right? So I feel like in a sense I'm still a DJ because I'm still sharing music with people whether or not I'm behind the turntables or not, you know.
No, I think that's good. It's good satisfaction. It appears to be a good business. I'm not saying all your days are easy, but I
Mm,
think the shop seems to be doing great. And I think you'd be very good at it because you could speak to someone who is an artist or a DJ and talk on a record level. You're a
mm,
beat digger, you know your shit. And also you're good with people. You could talk to a young teenage person, explain how things go, give them recommendations. I mean, you have that way about you.
mm. Yeah, I think it's definitely, you know, you don't want to become Simpsons comic book guy, right? Like you want to be kind of chill and approachable, and you want people to feel welcome, and from all walks of life and from all backgrounds, you know, whether they're like a superhead that's a pause like looking for like something crazy, or like um you know, just someone who's just looking for anything, like, oh, this cover looks cool, you know, whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad to see the store doing so well. All right, in our segment of the show, everyone's favorite segment, it's called Drop a Gem on a. It's a word association game. I'm gonna name song, artist, places, spaces. Tell me what comes to mind. Can be a feeling, a story, a personal anecdote, anything. And yeah, we'll take it from there. First artist, Little Brother.
Okay, so Little Brother's a great one I could speak on. You had Fonte on your show not too long ago, and fairly recently we like actually got to reconnect after like I want to say 20 years. Um, Little Brother was a group I was a fan of when they came out in what was it, 2002 ish,
Yeah.
around then. Um, Coincidentally, I met Fonte at one of their shows, their first shows in Orlando. And I remember that show kind of vividly because Ninth Wonder wasn't there. And I guess it was when he had left the group for a few days to go work on the Black album. I believe they were opening for Hieroglyphics or Souls of Mischief, one of those groups. Um, and coincidentally, I ended up opening for them it must have been after that, but at the time I was still trying to figure out, like I said, who was who and what was what in Orlando earlier, and I went on this message board called OK Player, and this dude Sean Dammit, had put up a post that they were looking for an opening DJ for this event, and the event happened to be a Little Brother show, which I had messaged him and ended up being the DJ for. And ever since then, when Fonte would come to town, we would hang out, go to IHOP, have orange juice, and so it was interesting to see him walk in my store 20 years later after not really interacting much, and finding out he is like a record fiend and always has been. And we got a nice stack going for him, and some of the stuff he picked was interesting. He bought a lot of good solid records that like maybe not everyone could appreciate, but it was good to see him grab them. And anyways, Little Brother, big fan.
I like that story. Fonte was a hell of a guest. He did mention you on that show. And he's a beat digger, and I like how open he is in sharing his music, his taste.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very successful artist. I mean, on multiple levels. Not all of them are showing they're showing what kind of music they like, DJing, kind of sharing their taste as openly as he does. And it's good because if you're a fan, you can learn from his taste and kind of what made him as an artist. And I think that's really cool.
I mean, I think he's, from what he posts on his Instagram stories or whatnot, it's clear he's like a real music lover. Yeah. And he's not like one of these dudes who's just like looking for like the hype, rare stuff. He's buying from a purely like, I want to listen to this and enjoy it type of satisfaction, which I think is pure, and like maybe more people should take that approach,
Yeah, it's also wild because his very diverse musical taste, great taste. He's like a world champion MC. Like he's
so dope. Yeah. I mean, like honestly, like you go back and listen to those Little Brother albums and his solo albums, and he went on to do Foreign Exchange, which it just brings up another like quick story. But like I remember being at like whatever like motel they put him in. We hung out after a show one night when he was in Orlando, and he was telling us about this group he had going with this guy overseas. And at the time it was very like novel and interesting that like they're sending beats back and forth over the internet, which turned out to be Foreign Exchange, which had a lot of success. I think they won Grammys and all that, right? So like a huge accomplished artist on his own right also just appreciates others. I think it says a lot.
Yeah, and it's pretty unique because we talked about like his work with Foreign Exchange, which is very diverse, musically complex songwriting, great vocals, his talent as a rapper. I mean, battle rapper and beyond, he has those skills, and he's still doing well to this day. I think it's because he's so maybe diverse, so he's not too stuck on one thing. He could rap like any day at the drop of a dime. And it's just cool to see kind of him connecting dots over time. I think it's cool to see as a person. Yeah. Next record, Heath Brothers, Smilin' Billy Sweet, Part 2.
So that's obviously I shouldn't say obviously, but that's a big sample source, right? That has been used, I think, by Nas and Redman, maybe. Is that right?
Yeah. The famous one is Nas, One Love. Redman 2. Yeah, I almost forgot about that one.
Yeah, you can't forget about Redman.
Yeah.
Can't forget about. Anyways, we've had that record come through the shop a couple times. The last copy I got of that actually sold in Toronto to Mary Hawthorne, who I guess didn't have a copy. And there was one time we had a sealed copy at the shop years and years ago, like probably like 7 years ago. It sat on the wall forever, and it was priced accordingly. Sealed copy of that record goes for some money. And one day some little Japanese lady just walked in, took one look at it, snatched it off the wall, and was out. And I'm not sure if she was like a beat head or like a jazz aficionado or maybe both, but like yeah, she grabbed it.
I mean, it's real diverse taste. It's a beat digger classic. That doesn't make it easy to get. It's a very rare record. It's very costly. I mean,
it's only come through my hands a couple times. Yeah, it's not out there like that.
It's not out there. It's a fantastic record. I mean, Whoever wants to look up the price, it's not cheap at all.
Mhm.
And I just think that story is really wild. Someone told me that Nas had the Heath brothers play at his
Oh, his
wedding.
wedding, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know where I saw that, but I must have been on some internet thing. Yeah, I saw that, which is pretty wild.
Well, the person who told me that is RC Rana. He told
Oh,
me that.
RC.
I don't know if that was on the net too, but he told me that. And
I think I saw it on the internet somewhere. Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, that is crazy. It just shows the appreciation. I mean, I believe he was marrying Khalees at the time. Like, what a wild combo of things.
Yeah, and then they got divorced, and he made that album. What was it? Life is Good. That was a really
Yeah,
dope record, man. I really like that one. Yeah.
yeah. Ups and
Classic.
downs of being a rap star. Next record, Sylvia Striplin.
So, Give Me Your Love is a classic. If you find that 12-inch, both sides of that 12-inch are amazing and can kind of fit seamlessly into each other and into anywhere I'd want to be, that song will be playing, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's a dope one. Sylvia Striplin, I believe, was in Roy Ayers' Ubiquity at one point. A lot of the production was by Roy Ayers. Hell of an artist. Many people may know that artist who listen to the show, but if you don't, check it out. I mean, I think we're dropping some rare and some well known, but I feel like always
that's
good
like
to
a
mention.
classic that belongs in everybody's crates. Like you got to have that. Like it never fails.
Let's go to another classic staple artist. One of my all-time favorites, Bobby Caldwell.
So, yeah, Bobby Caldwell was a legendary blue-eyed soul artist. I don't know if he's from Miami, but I know his label and distribution was here in Hialeah. And Miami has this like rich musical history, and he's like one of several, soul artists that came out of here. And it's you used to find his records a lot, and they're pretty popular. I would imagine, they're in a lot of people's collections, but they're coming to be like few and far between. And a couple of years ago, I met a gentleman who lived here who used to work in the TK disco warehouse. So like whenever Bobby Caldwell, What You Won't Do for Love came out, which I believe was like 79, he was like a teenager working in the warehouse, helping move pallets of records around. And from what he told me, and this is all like at this point out of like the jurisdiction of like prosecution, but the label owner set fire to the warehouse in order to get insurance money. Henry Stone was his name. He's a legendary music producer and label owner here in Miami. And before he did that, he told some of his staff, hey, if you want to go inside and grab a few things, by all means. So him being a teenager went in and grabbed a few boxes of this Bobby Caldwell, What You Won't Do for Love, heart-shaped 10-inch. And then I guess he shoved them in the corner of his house. And, 40 years later, I ended up running into him, and he had just had dead stock sealed copies. Coincidentally, that record did get reissued recently, the Heart Shape, by I think a label in the UK. But anyways, it was interesting to hear the story about the fire, and it's kind of like a long standing rumor that like there's a Gwen McCrae album that's super hard to find. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's like her rarest one. It was like promo only, I believe. And apparently the reason it's hard to find is because they all burned in that fire.
Gwen McCrae. Rock and
Yeah.
Chair Gwen McCrae.
Rock and Chair Gwen McCrae. Yeah, not that record, but in the earlier one. I'm really bad with names.
No,
Anyway.
that's fine. That's I'll look it up and post the cover, but that's really wild because she's a pretty famous artist. That's very easy to find. Also, hell of an artist, but really common artist overall.
Yeah, that album is really tricky. I've only found it one time in my years of digging down here. And I've come across a majority of the Miami Soul stuff at this point, but that one, at least the popular stuff, I should say. But that one is tricky, and if you ever come across a copy, I would recommend grabbing it for sure.
So that song is All This Love. That's Gwen McCrae, right?
Yeah, that LP that's on, whatever the name of that one is.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I have that on 45. All this love. That is a banger of a song. It's
Mhm.
unbelievable up tempo track. Great song. I mean, something I've always kind of known, but I, for some reason, in the past 3, 4 years, hear this more and more. This song, I hear this in a lot of places, unexpected places. People who are not beat diggers just playing this song everywhere. I have no idea why that is, but I'm glad to hear it.
It's a beautiful song. Yeah, just
Just somehow one of those ones that like got in the algorithm of people, and
mhm.
DJs are just playing that everywhere. I mean, it's a hell of a song. So
It goes in the crate with the Sylvia Strickland. It's like they belong together.
yeah, yeah, that's
That
like
vibe,
peak of the night dance floor song. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, Bobby Caldwell. I mean, he's one of the best. He's
Mhm.
his like confidence and his music is crazy. Just for our audience, many of you probably know the song "What You Want to Do for Love." World famous song, great song, never gets old. Open Your Eyes, My Flame. I mean, these are great. There's another one, Carry On. These are dope songs. And something about this guy, it's like he's so like I've seen some of his performances on YouTube. He's so confident and he's
Mhm.
got so much style. There's one video that someone sent me. I feel like it resurfaced in the past couple of years
Mhm.
where he's performing What You Want to Do for Love outside in like a beach type scenario. And his like performance level is so fucking confident, and it's like he's making contact with the audience. It's so sick. Like I gotta find that link and put it up. It is He's the best.
Yeah, I think so. Bobby Caldwell is definitely a legend in my book.
Yeah, he's like a pimp basically.
I was reading an aside that Dilla. I saw this little video. I wasn't reading. I saw a little video where he was explaining that the Tupac song that samples "What You Want to Do for Love"
Yeah,
was basically like a chop from one of his records.
yeah.
I wasn't privy to that, but you ever heard that before?
I
I never looked
heard that
at
he was upset that they bit his style so much. He's talked about it in interviews. He wasn't upset. He just said this level of copying is getting crazy, right? And then he was kind of like, I understand.
I mean, that's a great Tupac song, right? In the canon of Tupac, but like, yeah, when you listen to it, I guess it does sound like a Dilla-esque.
Oh, it's exactly the same. I mean, there are many songs that came out around that time where like the copying of Dilla was massively original and very interested in being original.
Hmm.
They were just jacking his shit so directly. I guess that's always happened in music, but in the world of, let's just say, the world of hip hop where Dilla was, he was very into creativity, as in more than anything. So I mean, in many of his interviews, he's mentioned that song, and he's kind of calls it out, but then he's like, I understand. Like he's not trashing them completely. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was new to me. I actually saw it this morning, and I was like, huh.
yeah, yeah. He was well aware, kind of didn't love it. Next song, Nutmeg, Ghostface Killer.
Oh man, listen, when Supreme Clientele came out, the first one, I was still in high school, and I used to work at like a chicken place, like it was called Skewers, and I would just be in the back, like cutting like chicken breasts and putting it on skewers. That was my job every day after school. And I was living in rainy Portland, Oregon, and I remember having my CD Walkman and just bumping Nutmeg on repeat, like walking to work in the rain every day, like for months. Like that was my shit. And to this day, Supreme Clientele is my favorite Wu-Tang solo album. Nutmeg is my shit, you know. And yeah, I definitely have formative memories of just bumping that on my little CD Walkman, walking to Skewers, getting ready to cut chicken.
Yeah, that I had no idea you're gonna take it there. That's very specific.
So-
Um, that's
Sorry, yeah,
wait,
just
no, no, no. That's I asked for a memory. You gave me a memory. I didn't think that's what you're gonna say. That shit is such a banger. It's like the peak Ghostface, peak RZA, and the flip of that sample. It's like perfect. I
what's the
mean,
sample? I don't even remember.
try not to blow it up. Eddie Holman, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's fine, whatever. You know, it's funny. If someone asks me, I say the sample if I know it. It's like a 1 second part of a song that you just like keep pressing on, right? And yeah, I mean that when I remember shortly after hearing the Ghostface song, I mean, I found the sample, someone played it for me within a few months. I was like, oh, this shit is crazy. And it was very let's just say perfect flip.
I think so. Yeah, it's classic in my book for sure.
Oh, the best, the best. You know, interesting thing. You brought up Ghostface. It's like a very wild story that kind of came up. So, at one point in life, I traveled for business every week. Whatever. I was a management consultant. It doesn't matter. And I was traveling, getting up mad early, and like going to various cities, like weekly for many, many months. And I remember getting to an airport in Philadelphia. It was like 6 a.m. So you're there at like 4 something. And I was kind of hungover and I was wearing a suit. It was a miserable situation.
I'm over in a suit at the airport.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie.
It was a rough time overall. I wasn't very happy, let's just say, with my career. I mean, in the end, it wasn't that bad. I made a good
You were
living.
kicking your way through it, but
Yeah.
you weren't living the dream.
Yeah. And I just start seeing all these, like, let's say, elderly people wearing suits, nice clothes, like dressed well, but like clothes from the 70s, right? And then I overhear these guys sitting with me in this kind of shitty part of the Philadelphia airport, and I realize that they're the Delphonics. La La La, the song of the Delphonics, that Ghostface, I don't think it was off Supreme Clientele, but there's a song where he just raps over it.
Yeah, he sampled them a few times, or whatever producer. Yeah.
Right. And then I start and they were going on some kind of like, there's various other artists there. Billy Paul was there, like other stars.
At the Philadelphia airport.
Yeah. And they were going to Toronto.
Oh, no way.
And I'm just talking to the Delphonics and I'm very respectful of them. They're older men. I was like, oh, I really like your music. And I don't know what they know. And I go, I really like this artist, Ghostface. And he goes to me, I remember just how he said it. He's like, you mean Ghostface Killer? And then I said, yeah. I'm like, so are you aware? He's like, yes, I'm aware. Right. And he explained that they don't make the money from that. Whoever wrote the song makes that. He was glad to see it. And he started kind of laughing because he's like, remember, this is like an elderly man wearing like a hat with a feather in it. And he goes, yeah, we had some trouble with him on the way to the studio. He said, it's like, we're driving the car, there was a shooting, but then we worked it out. And we were cool. We laughed about it. And I just thought that, you know, he's older. And I just thought maybe he's not all there. Just thought like, you know, the story doesn't quite make sense. How are you going to be in a car shooting at each other? And then I just didn't believe what he was saying. And then we just started talking about restaurants or whatever. And I
casually glanced over the whole shooting thing.
I just didn't acknowledge it. I just said, oh, wow, that's
like,
great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, whatever. Right.
Wild.
And he was talking about being a physician's assistant. And he's, you know, it's like an older man. And then later I saw an interview with Ghostface where he explains that this actually happened. And he's like, there's some kind of conflict and they're shooting at each other at separate cars. And then they ended up like, oh, you're the same guy. And they ended up at the studio together, which is an insane fucking story. I don't even understand that, but this is my memory.
That is wild and very, I guess, on brand, you know?
Yeah. I forgot that part about it. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird how life is. Yeah.
I probably shouldn't share this on this podcast, but I'm going to. So there was like a time when I was backstage at this festival I DJ'd at called 3 Points here in Miami. And that year, they put together a Doom and Ghost like set for the concert. So like, it was the time when Doom was in the country. And so they had like, I guess, shot some footage of him wherever he was. doing like in front of some CDJs, like smoking blunts and doing some songs, and then Ghost came out like in real life.
Okay.
So they're promoting it as like Doom and Ghost, but Doom's from the other side of time. Anyways, with that being said, I was backstage and I was like in this green room and I just kind of wandered back there and I cracked a bottle. There was like some, the craft catering vibe going on, and like poured myself a drink and I'm like back there with my DJ homie and we're just like kind of shooting the shit or whatever. All of a sudden, like Ghostface and like his entourage like roll into the room and one of his dudes is like, "Yo, who cracked this bottle?" And I was just like Homer Simpson, like in the bush, just like, "Mew." Yeah, they were heated because I guess that was like their bottle, and it's like a safety thing, right? Like you don't want people putting stuff in your drinks and whatnot. But like I had no idea like this was his green room, and I shouldn't have done that, and I just like kind of wandered out and dipped. That's my story.
That's a good story.
That's
I
my
like
Ghostface story. Yeah.
All right. Next song. What We Do. Freeway featuring Jay-Z, Beanie Siegel.
I mean, that's just like one of the ultimate, just nitty gritty. You hear that song and you just blazed that beat, right?
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal. Like it comes on. First of all, Freeway is an unsung hero in my book. Like he is a phenomenal rapper. If you're a fan, if you know about him, but that is like his North Star. That is like, all the stars align on that day, and just his performance on it and the beat and everything. It just is like it gets you hype every time. It's one of those like snap your neck off type joints that like you can't deny when you hear it.
Yeah. It's an all-time song. Always gets everyone going. Everyone could rap all the lyrics.
Mm.
And at that time, I guess it still happens. It's just, let's just say a time when using samples in this very big way
Mm-hmm.
was popular and it worked really well. I guess it still happens, but that's just one of the best examples of production, rapping, overall song, and everyone loves it, which is rare. So I think it's a hell of a song.
Yeah, it's definitely that real shit,
It's definitely, yeah, it's that real shit.
Like, for real.
Yeah, that real shit. And like I said, there could be like an office guy who likes that song, right? So it's good. All right, man. We're at the beginning of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Your record store is popping off. Life is good for you. You're in sunny Miami. If the next phase of your life, you've gone through all these phases,
Mm-hmm.
if the next phase were to be a success to you, what would have happened?
Success would just be continuing what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Really, I kind of enjoy like finding records. It's really something that I find a lot of fun. At some point, I guess that success would include maybe bringing in some help and expanding, whether that's like doing more stuff online or, opening a second location or something to that respect. But, honestly, success for me would just be to keep on the path that I'm on. I can't really see it any other way, and I don't think I'd want it any other way. I can't imagine at this point in my life putting on a suit and waiting at the airport in Philly hungover because I had a 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like,
Yeah.
I've kind of spent the majority of my adult life, like whether that's DJing or being my own boss, and that part of it's great, and as well as the music and whatnot. So it's like being able to like spin it off and like even if the store closes and I'm able to transition to something else, hopefully it's along the lines of what I've been doing.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. You're in a good groove. I think owning a successful record store, being a record dealer, for many people, that's a dream job because you're surrounded by music. You're not a customer. You're the dealer. And you're around everything you love. It's a great place to be in this life.
Yeah. And I think, I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but there's something to be said about like not being a customer because you can't really be getting too high on your own supply.
Yeah.
But, I'd be lying if I said it. I didn't keep a record or two every now and then. And I think that's one of the fun parts about it is, you know, the stuff that I keep isn't necessarily stuff that like would sell even. It's just stuff that I find interesting. And with that being said, when you're going out and buying these collections, you're running into people that are no longer with us or they're family members, right? So it kind of helps keep things in perspective as to like what you really need to keep and like how important it is, because, you know, all this stuff ends up back in the universe, right? Whether you want it to or not, at some point, your life's going to end, and that coveted record collection is going to go, you know, back out there in some ways, or it'll go in the earth or whatever. But like, you know, nothing is permanent. And something I've learned throughout this process of buying these collections and whatnot is that like, you can't hold on to it too tight, because, you know, there's people have these emotional attachments to these physical objects, you know, that are art and they're music, but, you know, it's just all a big cycle, and it's, you know, it goes out, it comes back, and that's just kind of how life is, if you're lucky, right?
Oh, I think that's a good sentiment. I'd say in the past few months, I've been giving life reminders that life is short.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't get too attached to anything. Also, you got to make the most of it. I mean, there's a lot to be, whatever the state of your life is. You could be on a high, or you could be wearing a suit in Philadelphia hungover. There's still things that are positive. I'll give you another story about being hungover in a suit. Okay, so I was in some town, Boston, and I was also like this fucking close to missing the flight. And I returning this rental car, and there's like a West Indian guy. So I'm really kind of irritated and getting my shit out of the car. And he goes to me, he's like, "Hey man, take it easy. Life's good. You got a nice suit on. You're healthy. You're young. You got a good job. Life is good."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, this guy's fucking right. And, you know, it was just a good reminder. Like, don't get too caught up in everything. I mean, life is short. You got to make the best of it.
It's easy. Like, perspective is everything, right? Like, and that is really important for, you know, a lot of people to take note of. And it kind of ties into this whole story I'm telling you of my growing up DJing, and like, this thing used to be so important, like, you know, and now it's like a memory. So it's like, you know, don't take yourself too seriously, have fun, you know, and try to see things in a positive light if you can.
That's a great way to end it, Tony. I appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show. Peace.
Later.
Just give me 30 seconds of your time. Firstly, a huge thank you for checking out the show. This started off as an idea in my mind, and to see the growth and the support from the beat digging community from around the world has been fantastic. Secondly, if you support what we do here, take a moment and join the 19% of listeners and subscribe on this app. It makes a huge difference. And my promise to you is to grow this show to make it even more of what you love. More guests, more interesting conversation, more beat digging knowledge. We appreciate your support. Peace.